using a technique that I like to call...
Always just jealous.
I'm jealous of your success. Yes, definitely.
So, welcome back to the AI in Practice podcast, where we talk to industry experts about what it is, how it's like to actually manage and scale and drive AI in market. Today, I'm very excited to have Marwan Eleskandarani with me. Marwan has been in the field for the past, I think, 5 years. Yeah, and he has been spearheading our commercials and our sales for the longest time. And Maro, so like most of the companies who are actually now adopting AI, they're adopting AI because of Maro. Maro, it's an incredible pleasure to have you today.
Thank you. I'm very humbled that you say I'm an industry expert.
Yeah.
You consider me as an industry expert. It's a real honor.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And I think if anyone is following us on LinkedIn, we usually don't have this formality between us. We usually just, take the phones out of our pockets and just shoot whatever we have in our hearts and minds.
And for some reason, it's usually always controversial topics.
Not always. You just one time, I think you spoke about something about feeding the hungry. And
the hungry don't get fed.
Controversy. The hungry don't get fed, and you created a real controversy.
And for a week, you thought I said the hungry don't get fat.
Don't get fat. Yes. I didn't get it.
And
at first.
you still were convinced. So
it actually sounded. So I'm basically the living proof that this is not a true quote. Anyways, let's get into it. So. As many people now in business are actually very excited about AI, and usually they have great ideas, and we're finding what we call a lot of citizen scientists, people who have some domain expertise, and they they're either self-taught or they took a few courses about data science and how to manage data and how to manipulate data. And they're becoming more and more aware about the benefits of AI and the benefits of machine learning and creating predictions and so on. Though one of the things I think that really is challenging for them, and I think this is where your wisdom and knowledge could be relevant, is sometimes you can find, for example, a supply chain manager or maybe a marketing manager who is very excited about a certain use case in AI, and then he works on it for some time and creates like a few basic models and goes to their direct manager, for example, and they try to pitch them their solution, and usually their managers says to them, you have to stop this and working on something that is really tangible and focus on your work and so on. So and of course, this is what you do at Synapse. So you go to different businesses, they know nothing about AI, and you get them pumped up about AI, and they become our customers and happy customers, hopefully, of course. And so how do you do it? How do you talk to executives and high-ranking business officers in companies and tell them about AI and really manage or navigate their objections and so on?
So I think if I can sum up the question, it's basically how do you show value, right?
How do you show the value of AI?
Yeah, and make people believe in it.
Yeah.
So
this is why I love working with him. He just, I'm very divergent in my thinking. I throw out a lot of ideas and he just simplifies everything in my mind into a very coherent question or phrase or argument. Thank you, Mauro.
You're very welcome. Yeah. So I think the problem is it's a twofold problem really, and it starts with the culture itself. And the culture we live in, there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to buying new solutions and buying new products. And this is not the fault of people, the buyers, but it's, I think, the fault of the sellers. Because it's easy to make promises, it's easy to present yourself as the expert, and it's easy to, make the sale, especially if you have something that maybe they haven't seen before and you promise them incredible results, right? So there's a recurring fear, I think, when people buy new solutions or buy new products that we really need to be aware of when discussing new technologies with executives. That's the first problem. The second problem, I think, is we don't have a good process in terms of prospecting and selling, anything that we want to sell, especially in something as complex as AI and data science, as I'm sure you understand. So the problem should be solved. The problem should be, tackled. We just had a minor technical issue with one of the crew, with one of the producers. So I think the problem should be dealt with from the very first day that you meet the client, using a technique that I like to call. We tried our best. No, let's continue, صح؟ Yeah. لا, let's keep going. I think أول part من السؤال ترد عليه كده we can. So, that's the first part of the problem. The second part...
So the first part is actually... So you define the problem...
The first part is fear.
It's fear, yeah.
So
it's fear and overpromising of the feasibility and, impact of the solution.
I don't understand why, as, people, we have a tendency to overpromise. They say that, maybe it represents quality, but not really. Quality is basically meeting expectations or meeting requirements. Would you say a Lamborghini is a higher quality car than a Toyota, for example?
Yep, probably.
Why?
Because it's a Lambo.
But a Lambo breaks down so much more frequently than a Toyota.
Oh, I'm not very much into cars, so
as a machine that's so quick and so fast, and it's for adrenaline junkies, it breaks down a lot of the times, and it's very expensive to repair. A Toyota is a reliable car forever, right? So a Toyota is actually higher quality than a Lamborghini because it meets expectations, right? So I don't know why we tend to overpromise. We should give out, deliverables. This is what we'll do. And actually do it. That's what we promised you.
But here's the thing. Now I think when buying AI, what's different about buying AI from any other type of technology is that, for example, when you buy a CRM or an ERP, usually you have the end in mind. You know exactly what to expect. You know how you will use it and so on. But with AI, it's different because AI is about predictions, right? And you really don't know what the data can, the predictive strength of the data that you have, or how exactly will it look like on your daily basis. So, and of course, AI comes with a bit of, I don't want to say dogma, but it comes with this preconceived notion that it's like a science fiction technology and it will not actually do so. If you're so put yourself in the shoes of the business or the citizen scientist who wants to sell his AI idea to his manager. The manager really doesn't want to put out a budget for AI and then the budget is lost and nothing comes out of it because they look very stupid. So how do you put them at ease that there will be impact?
So
there will be.
You like quotes, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so if you don't know who the enemy is, you can't win the war. The reason managers don't want to go through this hassle is because they've done similar projects, maybe in different fields, and they have not seen any success because they have no idea what success is. Right. So usually, and this is maybe a technique or a framework for people maybe that don't like sales very much. I call it the closer technique. So it's a CLOSER, and it's basically, the C stands for clarify. Why are we doing this? Why are we here? Why am I sitting with you right now as a manager, right? The L is labeling, right? You want to be able to identify, what we're struggling with as a business. If we don't, then there's no point in continuing, right? And then you go through an overview. What have we tried before? Why didn't it work? What are the reasons? Looking at past data as we are used to, and we do that because if you eliminate all other possibilities, then your solution becomes the only logical one.
Yeah.
So you already have a conviction, right? And then I think one of the most important letters in closer is the S.
Yeah.
Where you select what are the three main things that we can do to make this a success, to win the day, basically. And by day, I mean win the project or win the, you know, the initiative that we're working on. And then, you know, explain. And explain is basically going through the traditional or three main, you know, objections that we get on a day-to-day basis, which are, you know, circumstances, which are, you know, personal stuff, or, you know, budgetary reasons, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or even blaming the self sometimes. And then finally the R, which is essentially rewarding. You want to reinforce good behavior. So when, you know, your client or you're selling to someone, or even your manager or your employee, they go with your option, you have to reward this behavior.
Yeah.
And that will only lead to further work down the line, or further similar behavior to what you just rewarded.
Yeah. But you know, if I think this is extremely relevant if you're like selling the solution and the manager already, you know, considering between different options and so on, already considering different options. So for example, if you're selling like a demand forecasting use case, the supply chain you know, officer would go to his manager and they're telling them about, we're going to increase, for example, the forecasting accuracy. And then if the forecasting model does not really bring about like 50% more accurate models, then they would be very disengaged of the project, and they will tell them that this project is a failure, basically. So I think there is a lot of emphasis on the accuracy of the models, which sometimes maybe a little bit confusing, because the business would go sell to their executive board accuracies and so on, and I think this is not the point. So how do you steer away the conversation from accuracy to building more sustainable operations and more scalable operations and so on?
So I'll give you an example. If you want sustainability, then it means using the same resources for, you know, the same, you know, type of outcome, and the same resources for a bigger outcome, right? So one of the examples that we have is the credit scoring applications, right? You have huge companies in Egypt that have an army of, you know, analysts or investigators that perform these analyses, and it maybe, you know, in 1 month they might get 3,000 financing applications, for example, and that might take them 300 individuals and a couple of months to make the decisions. All I'm saying is, you know, I can, you know, gather and crunch all this experience that you have as a business into one engine, into one tool that will not only do the same thing, but it will empower the same amount of people to grow to 6,000, 9,000 applications on a monthly basis, and it's done instantaneously. And this people are, you know, a lot of the time people think we're here to replace jobs. That's not true. You're here to enable or empower employees to do their jobs better. It's essentially, you know, it's like saying
and
Excel
abilities
and what?
And scale their abilities to
and it's like saying Excel is here to replace the accountant's job. That's not true. You still need an accountant to operate Excel, right? You still need, you know, if you have the fastest car in the world, you need, you know, Michael Schumacher to drive it. So so that's an example. Sustainability is about, you know, taking actions today that will lead to impact, you know, a year, 5 years, or 10 years down the line. And it's the same for another example, like, for example, forecasting, because you mentioned forecasting. You know that a 1% increase in accuracy, which is minimal and very, very achievable, can equate to, in a lot of the times, you know, a 7% reduction in inventory costs, which is incredible for any supply chain director.
Of course. So, so one of the things that also, I like that last example very much, because it actually, you know, quantifies impact to a great extent. And I think any supply chain manager who hears like, I can reduce your inventory on hand by 7%, that's significant, of course. So
can I add something
please,
before continuing? And that's just, you know, what we can really measure. But a lot of the time we forget that there's a lot of intangibles, things that you cannot measure, like mental effort, for example. How are you going to measure that? Like, you know, just the clarity of work, focusing on what I'm actually hired to do, and not the extras and fluff around what I need to do to get my job done. So that's really the point of the impact.
So, you know, the saying, it's a famous, I think, mantra for software engineers especially, is that if a task takes 10 minutes to do, but like 60 minutes to automate, do the 60 minutes because you wouldn't have to do it again. So, and I liked very much what you said about encapsulating knowledge into an engine, because, you know, a company or an organization or an enterprise is, you know, it's they have a lot of know-how that is entrapped within their, you know, officers and organization structure and so on. And if you can encapsulate that into a model that is able to, you know, automate the operations and do the repeatable work, and for example, you know, expand on their know-how and competitive advantage, I think that's very
Actually,
valuable.
I have another quote for you.
Please go
now
ahead.
that you mention it. So there's a principle. I don't remember the name of the principle, but it states that, you know, work expands to fill the time allocated, right? So if you have a day to do your job, you're going to do it in a day. If you have an hour, you're going to do it in an hour.
Yeah.
So this is why the more work you get, the more resources that you need, because no one's going to say, yeah, I can finish, you know, my 30 applications today in 30 minutes. And then, you know, what are they going to say when they see me in the other, you know, 8.5 hours during the day, right?
Yeah.
So I forget the name of the principle, but it's a very
Work
known one.
expands
To fill the time allocated. And same for money. Money, you know, your expenditure expands to fill the amount of money you're earning. This is why people are always...
So the AI in Practice the AI in Practice podcast also gives financial advice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So send me your financial question.
Yeah. So so usually when it comes to artificial intelligence projects, sometimes the management, for example, would say, or maybe this comes more from IT. So now the citizen scientist went and actually convinced their manager about AI, and they're very excited. They go to the IT, for example, and they tell them, hey guys, we want to perform this project. And the IT tells them, oh, but we don't have any data. We need to build a data warehouse first. We're still, our data is not clean enough. We need to cleanse our data. And so they give you all of these, you know, there's a famous data pyramid. Yes, the hierarchy of data. It's inspired from Maslow's pyramid of needs. The hierarchical data pyramid of needs, whatever. So it begins with collecting data, storing, moving, labeling, and then building AI. So in your experience, how do you know, is this true? So if you don't have like a data warehouse, you can do AI, or so how does it work exactly?
Ahmed, you know, you hit a soft spot, because I really hate these excuses. From a technical and academic perspective, you know, usually academic people, they tend to formalize everything and to organize everything into, you know, logical steps. But the real world is a messy and chaotic place, as we know and we've seen. And, you know, you don't really need to start with the basics to be able to reach this pinnacle. It's not like an organization is a human being where you actually need to have your basic needs met first and then look for self-actualization. Every single book, self-help book in the world, tells you to begin with the end in mind, right? What's my purpose? Do I want to have better forecasts? Do I want to have better accuracies? Okay, do I have what it takes to reach that better accuracy today so that I can win today and then keep winning in the future? Or do I not have this? If I don't have this, that's a problem that we need to fix. But if you do have this, why do you need to, you know, have the perfect setup before starting? That's very silly, in my opinion. You know why? It's like the person that, you know, you can't separate the intellectuals from the doers, right? You need to have both, right? You need to think but also do. And if you don't do anything at all, then you're stuck in the thinking phase.
So if you begin with your end in mind, so you want better forecasting, and to get better forecasting, you want to build an AI. And if you want to build an AI, you have to do proper data storage, proper data collection. So what if you actually don't have like a well-prepared data set or a well-clean, high-integrity data set? So what do you do?
You know, I just wanted to comment on something before moving on as well.
Yeah.
And the problem with gathering everything and making sure your papers are in order as well is that it's really never ending, right? You will spend your entire life making sure that everything is clean before you start working. And that's, you know, it's an issue because you can always add more data, you can always add more features and so on. And there are ways to circumvent that through maybe, you know, what I'm sure you know, feature stores and, you know, just small reservoirs of data that will allow you to reuse your data constantly and rework on that data constantly, right? So what should I do if I don't have any data? Well, in that case, you know, no company has no data, right? I'm sure there's either, you know, archived files or and so on. And it starts with a basic, just digitizing these files, making sure that I'm getting a constant flow of new data in place, you know? Just because you're stuck at step 0 doesn't mean you shouldn't know what is the right way of collecting data and then working with what you have. You know, I've heard you say this in many meetings, that the job of a data scientist is to really work with incomplete data or low quality, low sanity data. And that's their job, you know? And actually it reminds me of a joke, if you don't mind.
Please go ahead.
If I can say that.
Of course.
But there are two actually types of data scientists. The first is one who can extrapolate from missing data.
And the second? Okay.
So you get it, huh?
Yeah. So actually, building on that, it's really very, you know, it's very straightforward, because if you had a complete data set, you wouldn't need a data scientist, you know, because data, so usually people say that science has a purpose of truth, right? Finding the truth. And if you had all of the facts and if you had like an explanation for everything in the world, you wouldn't need scientists, because
and what's the scientific method, right? Like if we're talking data science, what's the scientific thinking, or what scientific method is coming up with a hypothesis which you have no data for, and then trying it out, and then if it fails, then you reject the hypothesis, and if you succeed, then you do not reject the hypothesis for the time being, and then you start another hypothesis and then another, and until you reach some sort of local truth, because there's no absolute truth, right?
So there's a famous statistic that says like 87% of all AI. I know this is like this statistic has been said like a million times, but I think there is a lot of truth to it. Like 87% of all models built never make it to production, and I'm not sure where the exact source of this. Probably will search it and put it in like the description. But the thing is, sometimes I really believe that people, especially if the AI is built in house, they really don't want to put it to market, even if it's a good model. Why do you think that is?
You mean they it's like they're looking for failure? Or what do you mean by they don't want to?
So they have the model. The model is working through batching or through like a very, very, you know, back office kind of operation, and it's not out there. It's not in production. It's just, you know, they upload like an Excel file and just have the output and then present the output and that's it. But it's never really it's never really like taking data in and providing predictions and helping in making decisions. So why do you think that is? Why do you think most AIs are never actually realized fully?
Yeah, I think I was actually just watching something about this, but the best salesman is a person who can put himself in others' shoes, right? If you know what the person in front of you is facing, what issues they're combating on a day-to-day basis, then you can easily, you know, tackle it and then sell the thing. The problem with data scientists, and I'm sorry for all the data scientists out there, is that you're not very empathetic, right? You have no awareness of the needs, not just of the organization, but of other people within your circle, your department, even in other departments. You need to understand why a project will be valuable to, you know, the sales department and the marketing department and the operations department. Not just, you know, you're not in a bubble. You're not working on your own to create a model that's just fancy and looks good to you. And then in real life, it really doesn't perform well because no one's really using it anyway, right? So there's no feedback. And I would say, the second thing is, and this is also not a problem with the data scientists, but who owns the project or the algorithm or the model once it's deployed?
Yeah.
Is it the data scientist? But what if there's a technical issue? Is it then the IT's job? Or what if there's a lack of adoption? Is it the CEO's job? So whose fault is that? And I don't want to have they call it a plug right now, but one of the things we have in the company is a dedicated consulting department. And literally their only purpose is to make sure the client is adopting the solution and the solution is being operationalized.
So they're playing the empathy.
They're playing the empathy game. And a lot of people think, that's a bit sneaky because you get to, become friends with the clients and then you make sure that they're doing, this to do that. But what's the problem with that, right? If you want to convert someone into your way of thinking, you need to show them why it's important or why it's beneficial to you. So, you need to have accountability. There's no accountability. There's no hierarchy. There's no communication matrix because it's not the core business of that business. It's not their core job to develop models. There are people who are dedicated to that, just that. So let them do their thing and then you focus on, selling your cereal, I guess. So, Ahmed, before we continue, I have 2 more jokes for you.
Please go ahead.
Data science jokes for you.
Give them to me, man.
Okay, so the first one is, what do you get when a data scientist marries a pirate?
Rum.
That's very funny, but no. A baby that specializes in R.
Good one.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The producer likes it. And the second one is, what's a data scientist's favorite car?
There are no Python car brands, right?
No, but there's a Jeep Wrangler.
Oh, good one, my man.
And one of the 3 jokes I told you I wrote myself. Can you guess which one?
The Wrangler one. Okay.
Is it obvious?
No, it's not. I just took a
wild,
guess.
a prediction.
So a random guess is actually kind of an oxymoron because every guess is random. No, there are educated guesses and random guesses. As a data science company,
one of our philosophical talks for LinkedIn.
For LinkedIn, yeah.
It's did we talk about that this is the first time this is a formal conversation between us?
Yes, I think we did.
It still feels weird.
It still feels very weird,
Sorry, I took the spotlight for a second.
We want you in the spotlight always, Maro. So back to your point, data scientists and business users, the relationship is always in trouble. The business users come into the data scientists and they basically dictate, you guys have to stop everything you're working on and I need a report about how many pieces of how many units did we sell, how many trips did we do. And then the data scientist starts in this reactive mode where they just are bringing out reports and sending them to the business and they're not really creating anything of value. And then the business doesn't really see the value of the data scientists because they're very reactive. They're doing what they're told. And of course, the data can have a lot of potential, but the data scientist is not free to express and actually work with the data to bring out proper predictions. And they're very reactive to the business users. And when the data scientist is expressive and is creative and is creating models and so on, they go with super high enthusiasm for the business users, and the business users just look at the models. Yeah, but how are we going to use this in our daily job? So what is your advice to data scientists? Because again, you're the face of our data science company. You are the one who bridges between our technical world and their business world. What is your advice for data scientists to fix the relationship with the business, to make sure they're engaging the business users, to actually build models that the business users can adopt and use?
So I think you have to, as in sales, as in life, I bring it back to sales all the time because life is a selling game, right? Yeah. But you need to be able to sell what you're doing, right? Yeah. So you're getting paid a lot of money to bring value to the company. So you have to ensure that everyone understands the value that you're doing, right? So you need to really convey to everyone you're dealing with that you're the expert. A lot of the time, you know, the problem is you go and you ask these questions and you wait for inspiration, or you wait for someone to tell you what you do and so on. But as a data scientist who has supposedly seen many data sets, has seen many industries and so on, and even not, you've seen many projects that you've worked on, you really understand, what projects will make a difference to my business with numbers, right? You need to be really clear on going to the operations manager and telling them, listen, this will be beneficial because of 1, 2, 3, 4. And then, and only then, if you get objections, this is when you start to tailor the model or tailor the approach to the problem. So it's both an empathetic game, because you really need to understand how to be empathetic with your team members, but also showing them that you're capable of understanding their needs somehow better than them.
So back to your point of empathy.
So as a parent, you know, you're a father, right? You understand that you've lived for quite some time, 30 plus years. So you have some experience in life. But if your baby cries, you can't just ignore that forever, right? Obviously, there's something wrong. So it's, a push and pull technique between you knowing what's right for your child and then also understanding their needs. And it's the same thing. We're all, babies at the core. So we need to be able to navigate that very well.
So care for your baby.
care for your baby.
As a data scientist.
Actually, I have a question for you.
Please.
As someone who has been through many meetings, what's actually some of the worst or recommendations that you hear in your profession on a day-to-day basis, especially in the AI and data science?
So it's not much of an objection. It's more of a point that you should steer away from. If you're talking to business, steer away from the accuracy conversation, because it's not about accuracy. Accuracy is of course a very, very important metric. I'm not saying that it's not, but in business, usually accuracy sometimes can be an unfair way to judge a model, because at the end of the day, you want impact. You want to, if you have like a sorting based model that's good enough, you can just apply it to a very small sample of the your product portfolio or your customer population, and then you start building from there. But definitely steer away from the accuracy conversation and go to market as fast as you can. As fast as you can. Even if you have a very, very low accuracy model, you have to do, like as you said, you have to cater for the business, understand their needs, and really tell them that this is just the start. And it doesn't matter if you have like a 95% accurate model in training. If it's not going to market, if it's not in market, it's really there's no point.
So speed is the name of the game.
So speed to market. So speed to market, and steer away from the accuracy conversation. It's about impact. So start with a low accuracy model in market and then build from there. So whenever I remember one meeting we had, like I think a 92% accurate model, and it was phenomenal. And this certain client had like an error of they were accurate, I think, in the forecasting models, like with 55% accuracy, and we created a separate model that is more than 92% accurate, and they told us, now guys, you're AI engineers, we want like 98 or 99%, and I was, this is maybe at the beginning of Synapse, and it was really furious. Like you had a model of you had a 55% accurate model, and we gave you like a 92. That's like a 40% almost uplift in your accuracy, and you're still not happy. So this is when I learned that accuracy, if you go into the accuracy rabbit hole, you never get out. So always think impact, and always think KPI alignment, basically.
Yeah, because you reminded me of an example. I call it the chocolate example, which was actually told to me by Galel, your co-founder.
So let me ask you this, because our producer today brought up some donuts. It's outside, and this is why you're thinking of chocolate.
Yeah, it is. I haven't had my donut yet, so
I had some. So
that's why I'm a bit sleepy. But let me give you this example.
Shout out to Ahmed Ryan for the donuts. We thank you, man, so much.
Thank you.
You're a very generous producer, graphic designer, artist,
and actor.
Synapser. and actor. Yeah, but that's. Yeah.
But to give you the example, if imagine you have a company that's selling on a monthly basis 100 chocolate bars, and I tell you, listen, I'm gonna build a model that's 99% accurate. You're gonna say, okay, what's the other option? I tell you, I'm gonna build you a model that's 50% accurate. You're gonna say, Marwan, you're insane. Give me the 99%. What you don't know is there's an element called coverage. How much am I covering? The 99% model, accurate model, is covering 10% of the data. So that means I will sell, very accurately. I'll make sure to sell 9 out of 10 chocolate bars. But the other model is selling at, it's covering 100% of your data, and I'm 50% accurate. So I'll guarantee that I'll sell you 50 chocolate bars. How much difference do you think that is? That's if a chocolate bar is $1, it's $40 of a difference.
So definitely, this is why I'm talking about impact. So I want to really emphasize your point about empathy. Really empathize with your end user, if it's an internal user or an external user, and really understand their KPIs and really build to enable their KPIs, and be in the driver's seat always. So if you I think the Achilles heel of a data scientist is to fall into the reactive mode where they're just creating reports as per the business demand. So I think, like you said, the baby example was phenomenal. So if the baby cries, there is a problem. So you have to attend to it, but you also have to be, you're the domain expert. You're the person who really understands the data potential. So be on the driver's seat. And do everything you can to get to market, because this is when really people will see the value. People will be on board because you've pushed them all into the ring. So everyone will be on board. So always get to market. If you're a data scientist, always get to market. And
good advice.
And on your point, move away from accuracy and focus on.
And also, as a business owner, give your data scientist, some authority. He can't, no one can be held responsible if they don't have authority. They're linked. They're not separate. If you are responsible for results, then you have full authority into what happens in your department or in your life. You can't expect a million things from your data scientist, right? And then not give him enough authority to move some resources around, for example. So I would just add that as well to the mix.
A very good point. So
I think actually, Ahmed, people are curious to know more about you. So I have one final question from my side.
He's a natural podcast host.
I'm very curious as well. So, we all do some crazy things on a day-to-day basis, right? So what's something ridiculous or crazy habit that you're kind of, obsessed with, or that you love right now?
Crazy habit?
Or just something that's really absurd.
That's a good question. So what's a crazy habit that I have right now? So nothing comes to mind actually that is that crazy.
Yeah, I think
my life is really boring. Thank you for pointing that out.
I think you're
so
expert paddler.
But paddle is not a crazy habit. It's just a sport. I might be a little bit.
I think actually your life is quite eclectic in its own right. So it's hard to choose something that's normal. Actually,
I love the word eclectic. So
we all
add to dictionary. So Mar, let me ask you this, and let me get back to the driver's seat. And thank you for actually giving a real life example of taking the driver's seat out of the. Anyways, let me ask you the
taking
question.
The wheel from the driver.
Taking the wheel from the driver. Yeah. So, what are you most excited about in the AI field right now?
Actually, I was thinking about this question a lot because I was trying to choose a cheesy answer, but actually something really came to mind, which is, have you seen the engines that create art from prompts? So you type in some prompts and then it creates the art for you in any style that you want. This is very exciting to me. It's incredible how you can get something that's technically from a human prompt,
Yeah.
but something that no one could have thought of or no one could have
Yeah,
painted
yeah.
except maybe in, you know, a million years.
Yeah.
Or it's incredible. I don't know how it's done. I'm
it's-
not that technical, but it's really amazing.
You work at an AI company. Ask some questions, man.
Yeah, true. But I'm too busy in the street.
In the street, yeah. So, Maru, this was incredible. I believe that this will be just the first of so many coming episodes. Thank you for the wisdom, the many wisdoms, pieces of wisdom that you laid down on us in this podcast. And
This was fun. Thank you.
and to our next one.